Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being so patient. I know it's been about 6 months since my last video. Long story short, a neighbor did some renovations that my house was attached to, and a whole bunch of mold was exposed, and it actually made my wife and I very sick. And so it's been a long recovery, but I'm well now. And since I've last spoken to you, awesome people, I made my debut at the Catalina Jazz Club in Hollywood, as well as the Maxon Jazz Club in Las Vegas, and a few sold out shows here in Calgary. And so things are going really well now. And I'm eager to get back into our plan to go through Frank Sinatra's book titled Tips on Popular Singing by Frank Sinatra. And I'd like to start with the first exercise here. It's found on page 9. And this exercise utilizes the UH set of vowel and the consonant. It's actually not a consonant, it's just a set of letters. UH, like the word up. And what happens when you use the UH as the foundation and the base, you have these cartilages around in the larynx called the arytenoid cartilage. And what happens is when you say UH, they come closer together like this. And in vocal pedagogy, we call that vocal fold approximation. And the setting of UH allows for the vocal folds to come nice and easy, nice to get very close together, and allows for cleaner phonation, more precise phonation, and it just makes it a lot more beautiful to sound. If you were to start with a wide phonation and a wide position of the arytenoid cartilage, it'd fall back in the throat and sound really ugly. So a perfect example. Ah, ah, okay. I'm singing my ah vowel within that setting of the UH. So ah, and same with E. Ah, E, ah, oh. And if you get a copy of this book, I think you can still find it on Amazon. You will see at the end, the last page, Sinatra had an artist draw all the figures of the different mouth positions. And it's important to know that the UH is the foundational setting, okay? You start in UH and then find all your vowels within that space. Okay, so exercise number 1. He says that this means that the entire phrase or the group of phrases have to be legato. And it's interesting, the Italian word legato, the translation comes to the word bound. So you're bound to the smooth release of sound. A coach of mine once said, think of it as though you're squeezing toothpaste out of a tube and you're trying to get the most smoothest line as possible. Same thing with the singing when we think about legato. And so just reading further on here, he says, on the first note, the mouth should be a little opened, and as you get to the top note, it should be a little more opened. So we're going to start with a little bit of opening, and then we're going to go to the top note. And so we're going to do this on a triad, tonic, third, fifth, back to third, back to the tonic. We'll start on a low note for those who are just starting, okay? Sorry, still getting over pneumonia. Oh, oh. Now, the opening that happens towards the top will be a bit more dramatic as you go into the really top notes. For instance, for the ending of All the Way. All the way. And you can see I was quite open there. For the lower notes, we don't want to be too open. Let's say one of my favorite tunes, one that Sinatra did often at the Sands, called Where or When. Originally a Broadway tune, he made it into this wonderful jazzy, more up-tempo beat. In the lower range, it seems we stood and talked like this before. We looked at each other in the same way, then can remember where or when. I'm not opening so much because so much of this is at speech level. But I am thinking the whole time internally that the UH is the foundation, right? That placement never changes. And so try this exercise for yourself. There's another scale that he has in exercise 4. It's a 9th scale. And this is one that actually Pavarotti used very often. And what's interesting is in a book that called Great Singers on Singing, or Great Singers on Great Singing, one of the commentators who interviewed Pavarotti said that he would always be in the AH position. And then I actually listened to a master class that one of my teacher's students did with Pavarotti. I studied with Michael Trimble in the United States, and there's a great video out there of Tonio Di Paolo doing a master class with Pavarotti. And when he talks about the position of the larynx and kind of the setting where everything stays, he goes, So that opera singer that wrote that piece on him mistakenly put AH instead of UH. So even Pavarotti used this setting for his voice. So let's get into the 9th scale using the UH. And I'm slightly opening up as I get to the mid, and think of it that you're just swelling into that note. Now, that is a great foundational sound to have, but it's a bit too close to classical and opera. So it's a great place to start, and it's also where Sinatra started. And I will put that link of that. I got a great small snippet of Sinatra talking about this book years after he did all his swing, that he still uses these exercises while he was alive. He still used these exercises. And but for the swing style, you can have the same kind of vocal fold closure and the same phonation. It's more, think of it more being on like the edge rather than the full sound of an operatic sound. You want to kind of almost like you're walking on a tightrope on the edge. Okay, so example. If I sing "You're Just Too Marvelous" or "Too Marvelous for Words," I'm not doing that full sound. I'm just beginning to sing on the edge of that sound. You're just too marvelous for words, like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous, right? It's the same position, it's the same interaction between the buccal pharyngeal resonator tract of, we're talking the lips, the tongue, the phonation, but it's not as intense. As the vocal folds draw closer to one another, those retinoids cartilages draw closer and the vocal folds become really thick and really close. That's something you'd use purely for opera. And the reason why it takes so long to train to be an opera singer is because that position and that phonation demands a lot more engagement and a lot more diaphragmatic, and even for, depending on your body type, pyramidalis breathing and engagement, all the way down to the pyramidalis muscle. Depending on your body type, some people just use intercostal breathing for, smaller body types. I know many singers who are, over 250 pounds and plus, that does not work for. there is movement in the intercostal breathing. But even if you look back to great Helden tenors, they will tell you right away that they have this very low pure medalis breath. Sinatra didn't talk too much about that. He talked more of just breathing in naturally through the nose, and feeling as though your stomach is drawing towards your spine as you sing, and as you sing higher into your register. But we'll talk about all that another day. Let's just try the UH for now, and try to put in different vowels while beginning in that UH position. So we'll try the 9th scale one more time here. And so any phrase you could take from Sinatra, you could begin in UH and then just sing the phrase that's inherent to that. For instance, we could do Moon River. Oh, oh, moon river, wider than a mile. Right? We're not going to come off of that position. We're not going to go, moon river, wide, and then it all just goes wide and goes to the crapper. It just doesn't sound good. You want to maintain that phonation, that position of the arytenoid cartilage, okay? Make it simple, like the word up. Much more simpler. I studied anatomy and physiology. I have a background. I did a certificate, an intense certificate in pre-health science, and I was even in nursing for a time, a couple decades ago. But I love that I had that knowledge because it really helped me with vocal pedagogy and understanding how the voice works. So some people have different learning types. Some people love to use technical terms. To some people, it doesn't do anything for them. So I'm going to try and do a balance to see, how much of my normal vocabulary can I use and how can I make this really simple for you. So let's try that now with different vowels, starting from the UH position, okay? You can hear it's all in the throat here. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. Right, it's all in the same. It's all staying confined in that legato. Think of like a down bow, right? Or squeezing the toothpaste, right? And all in that same placement. So let's try now. A, E, O, U. You starting with UH. A, E, O, U. So you can see the different changes in the position. The E, the lips come a little closer together and engage a little bit more of the zygomatic arch. O, E, O. And then going up and down the scales, I don't want to fall out of that position in that placement, okay? So comment below. Let me know if there's any other topics you'd like me to cover. I believe there's 12 exercises here for this book, so actually 14. There's a lot. There's a lot of exercises. So I'll be going through this book over the next, say few months. And thank you so much for everybody who commented, everybody who supported. I'm so glad that this information is helping you. And if you ever have a question, comment below. I'll do my best to respond. Until then, keep the sound beautiful, keep it legato, keep it clean, and keep it out of the throat, okay? All right, friends, God bless you. We'll see you in the next video.